Hello, hello. Thank you so much for being here. Say hello in the chat and introduce yourself to everybody else. Let us know what chapter you're joining us from and your current job search mood in one emoji. So let's say hello to our welcome committee. We have Alberto and Heather. They're watching the chat like very friendly hawks. And guys, it's a supportive room, no judgment, just honest conversation and maybe a little career soul searching. Welcome to everybody here. Hello, hello. I am your host, Rachel Elnar, AIGA National Board Member. And this AIGA monthly member series is designed to help creatives survive work with a little more clarity and a little less emotional whiplash. Just a quick reminder, this is not a real academic institution. There's no grades, no credits, no GPA damage. But the skills are extremely real. And this series exists because work today is complicated, messy org charts, invisible expectations. And that question you're asking yourself right now, is this the right place for me? So this place is about practical skills, shared learning, and remembering that you are not the only one trying to decode modern work. It's great to see everyone here today. I see Alberto is here. Thank you for welcoming everyone in. Melinda and Shannon, I see you all. It's great to see everybody. All right, let's talk about what is ahead. The class we're in right now is the Practical Institute for Creative Survival. All right, it's design 226, work that's worth it, a job search built on clarity and standards. This session is about something many creatives quietly struggle with, how to find work that fits you, not just work that looks good on paper. Job searching can feel a little uneven. You bring your resume, your portfolio, and your whole professional identity, and companies bring carefully curated information. Guys, I know I'm job searching right now too. And today is about leveling the field, learning how to spot real fit, ask revealing questions, and choose work that actually works for you. The instructor today is Josh Silverman, founder and CEO of People Work Partners. Josh has spent decades helping companies hire better and helping people choose better. He works with organizations from startups to Fortune 500 companies, including Target, Netflix, and OpenAI, helping them build strong teams and healthier work environments. He brings a human-centered lens to recruiting, leadership, and career decisions, which is exactly what we need in a world where job searching can feel like speed dating with higher emotional stakes. All right, today's lesson plan is this. We'll get into a few member spotlights celebrating the AIGA community, Josh's lesson, and honey, you don't want to miss this. And finally, a pop quiz, because knowledge is fun when there's prizes involved, especially a career coaching call worth $500. All right, so that's what's on for today. And if you have questions at any time, just drop them into the chat. We will bring them into the conversation. And yeah, this session is being recorded. The replay will be public on the AIGA Design YouTube channel tomorrow. But because you're an AIGA member, you get live access to Josh right now. So take advantage of this event and ask your questions. Guys, this series is also about more than just learning. It's about community. So let's meet some AIGA members. Leading us through the AIGA member spotlights is Victor Davila. Victor is a fellow board member in the national organization and associate professor at University of Central Florida's School of Visual Design, Arts and Design, teaching illustration and design, and the host of Creative Mornings Orlando. Vic doesn't do enough these days. Welcome, Victor.
Thank you so much, Rachel. How are you, everyone? Good to see you guys all here. Hi, Alberto.
Hey, it's great to see you, Vic. So what I'm going to ask you is just to take it away. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rachel. I just want to say hi to some of my AIGA friends that I see on the chat. Hey, Alberto, my brother, my AIGA brother, and Lauren Yanko I see on the chat. So hi, Lauren and Lee Sean. Thanks for joining us here, and all my other new friends that I think I see on the chat. So welcome. Like Rachel said, my name is Victor Davila. I'm on the AIGA National Board, but I'm also the President Emeritus of AIGA Orlando. I've been a past member of the AIGA DEC. I've been past member of AIGA Unidos, and as Rachel mentioned, I'm also the host of Creative Mornings Orlando, amongst other things. So I'm a joiner, and I love community, and I love to see community here. So thank you so much for coming out today. Continue to let us know where you're joining us from. And I saw earlier between the emojis and the food talk that there's a lot of kind of like great chatter in the thing. It makes me think that there should be one of these talks in the future just about AIGA food. Rachel, if we can make that happen, we can kind of share recipes and how we design recipes, maybe. That's an idea. But we're continuing a long AIGA tradition of recognizing the people who shape this organization. And in this segment, we ask one simple question. Why has being part of AIGA mattered? So first up, we have a legend in our AIGA community, I think, Alicia Syriac. She's the talent brand experiential activation lead at Dropbox and both a member and leader in the AIGA Colorado community. For Alicia, the value of AIGA is clear. She says, and I quote, "My whole career connects to AIGA. Volunteering for my chapter gave me my people, grew my skills, and opened every door that followed. The creative community became my foundation," and I think I have to totally agree with her. She is someone I met through AIGA, and she has been my foundation in a lot of things that we've done. So thank you, Alicia, for serving. Next is the awesome Dan McHilton III, Program Director of Graphic Communications and Media Technologies at College of Southern Nevada, owner of M3 Applied Design, and a founding member of AIGA Las Vegas. I'm sorry, I'm just reacting to his photo on the screen. To Professor Dan, AIGA means a lot to him. He says that AIGA is, quote, "a place where the creative community connects, shares wins and challenges, and where we understand our quirks and nuances to walk through the design profession with deeper understanding, shared knowledge, and growth. AIGA connects." And our final spotlight this month is the amazing Holly Wheeler, head of design at the Entertainment Community Fund and a member of AIGA New York. She values AIGA as a place to learn and connect with others. Outside of work, she trades pixels for power tools, renovating her house and building new things. So these member spotlights are nominated by AIGA chapter leaders, and we're grateful for the care they take in lifting up people and their local communities. So thank you all. Please keep nominating. And now back to Rachel at the studio.
Hey, thanks, Victor. I really appreciate you introducing us to those members.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much. All right, folks, now we're going to get to the good stuff. Let's get to our lesson. It's work that's worth it. I know today's topic hits close to home for me, as well as a lot of people in this community, choosing work intentionally instead of reactively. So please help me welcome recruiter, leadership advisor, and champion of healthier work relationships, Josh Silverman. Hey, Josh.
Thank you. Hi, Rachel. Hey, everyone.
I am
Great to be here.
I am so glad that you are here. You are like the superhero that's going to come in and help us understand and how to navigate. Honestly, this topic just feels extremely relevant to like 97% of the chat right now. We're so excited to learn how to job search with more clarity, not just throwing our applications out to anybody, being more intentional, hopefully fewer this looked good, but it felt wrong situations. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's why we're all here. Yeah, for real.
Really excited.
Thank you. It's a real pleasure to be here. And congrats to you on being president-elect, by the way, of AIGA. That's really freaking fantastic.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Hey, guys, for every you in the chat. So if you have questions for Josh, again, this is your time to interact live with him. Drop those questions into the chat. We'll address them. And is everyone ready to get started? Josh, are we ready to begin?
Let's do it. Yeah,
Okay.
Born ready.
Awesome. Let's do it. Thank you.
Well, thank you to being here. Thank you, AIGA community. Shout out to Heather and Victor and Rachel for making this happen. Thanks to Lee Sean. for everything. I've been an AIGA member for 30 years, so it's great to be part of this community and continue to build and grow the community. Also, happy Chinese New Year to everyone. It's the year of the fire horse, but I don't know about you, it feels more like a fire hose sometimes. So before we get into the slides, I want to also shout out and welcome graphic designers, interaction designers, product designers, industrial designers, brand designers, content designers. Welcome account representatives and sales, and welcome customer service. Welcome technologists, developers, engineers, welcome hybrid engineer designers, welcome educators, founders, welcome producers and ops people and illustrators and photographers. And finally, welcome to those who are still deciding what to be when they want to grow up, or deciding what to be when they grow up. That's what I wanted to say. Okay, so are we good with slides? It's time for slides. Excellent. Look at that. I just say it and it happens. Okay. This is called Work That's Worth It. And I want to start out by asking you how to define what's worth it to you. But before we get into the agenda, I want to just shout out my bestie of 40 years, Billy Mandel. This is the last AIGA talk we gave. It was called Queer Your Career on October 11th, 2024. I met a lot of my heroes through AIGA, and I brought a lot of my partners into the AIGA community. So this is one of my collaborative partners and best friends of, as I said, 40 years. Okay, today we're going to start by aligning on the title of this class. Then I'd like to check in with you on where you're all doing with your search, what you're seeing out there. Did you bring your prerequisite? That was at least one work relationship that looked good on paper but felt wrong. So if you didn't bring the prerequisite, now's a good time to start thinking about that. Next, we're going to look at everyone's favorite hot topic, artificial intelligence, vis-a-vis the job market. I'm going to then zoom out and offer some insights and observations, some hypotheses, and share my position on what we can do. Then we'll close in what you can start doing today, now here, in an effort to feel less shitty about where we are. My intent with this session, my intent with this session and all my work is to help you clearly define for yourself what's worth it, help you articulate your value, and think for you to start thinking about that if you haven't already, and intentionally build a practice for searching for people and companies that align with those values under current conditions. And so one last thing before we move into slides, when I say design or designers, I'm referring to everyone that I just welcomed in, all manner of design. Okay, so you define your value. My friend Tim Balone did this wonderful, beautiful coin. It's actually a coin that says you define your value. And I love this coin because it is a piece of copper. You heard it on my desk. You define what's worth it. You define it for you. And I hope that that is a good orientation to the rest of the session and an orientation to how you're going to show up in your job search from this point forward. So if you've had one set of clear, achievable priorities, and then you had to adjust them based on changing conditions, I know I just did because, quick sidebar, California College of Arts, where I've made my professional home for the past 10 years, just announced a few weeks ago that it's closing at the end of next year. My program that I've been chairing and teaching in for 9 years, the program is the Master of Interaction Design, is closing in 6 months. So that's a new set of conditions that I get to respond to. And I think that that was a surprise to everyone at CCA. And it feels really surprising to be able to make it past those new conditions and try to think about them as just conditions to solve for. So guess what? If you're a designer, you're solving for changing conditions all the time. One of the things that you're probably looking for is more stability. That comes in a few forms: income, consistency. You get healthcare tied to your W-2 in the US, maybe some predictable income. If you're not in the risk tolerant camp, then you're looking for stability. Or maybe you are in the risk tolerant camp. You want to stay independent. You don't want to work for anyone else. You want to go in-house. A lot of roles that I'm seeing these days are fractional. Which is a certain amount of weeks per month or hours per week. You can decide what those terms are that you can accept a fractional role. I'd like to believe that temp to perm, in other words, starting out as a temporary employee and moving into permanent W-2 full-time employee, is a parallel with like dating before marriage. This is not an arranged marriage. I'd like to think that there's a space for people to test out what it's like to work in a company before you sign on full-time. Maybe there are additional conditions of dependence, life stuff, family stuff that might be a surprise for you to manage and mitigate. Or unexpected changes like, I don't know, a 120-year college closing, or new technologies or politics, and there's a lot of those changes right now. So some of these things will change, your priorities will change, and the point of this is to acknowledge that there are ways to stay clear and true to your value and your values despite the priorities and the conditions around you. So that's table stakes for me. Some interesting news from the Harvard Business Review and the latest technology that everyone's chasing. This is from last week. The HBR article goes on to say that according to the author's research, AI tools intensify work. The employees that they studied worked at a faster pace, took on more tasks, extended work into more hours of the day and into the weekend. To me, that sounds like hustle culture 2.0. We've already seen the results of things that shifted from moving fast to break things to moving slower and fixing things. So the authors suggest that companies adopt a set of norms and standards around AI use that can include intentional pauses, sequencing work, and adding more human grounding. We've seen this before. We have seen this before. We've been through this hype cycle already. So I'd love to hear what you see. Let's hear from you about how you define what's worth it and how you're thinking through that in your own search. Please comment and chat where you are in your job search, how you're conducting it, what tools you're using, what kinds of networking you're doing. I want to check in with you before we move on. And this is a good time to share your prerequisite, which was, as a reminder, at least one work relationship that looked good on paper but felt wrong. And we're going to talk about it. And I think Rachel's going to join me so we can socialize this briefly before moving on. Okay, so I want to go to the chat and see what people are saying.
Yeah, let's take a look at the chat.
Yeah.
We also have a poll. So guys, vote in the poll, like make it a quick pulse check. So where are you in your job search right now? Check out the poll, it should be live. Pick one that fits best. We'd love to know what you're doing and what you're looking for. All right, so let's see what everyone's saying. I see people are now voting. Let's take a look. Wow, we've got a lot. So again, what's your current job search vibe? Is it stable and not looking, curious but cautious, talking to people and exploring, deep in applications and interviews, and searching full-time between roles? Wow, I'm surprised. Not a lot of people are stable and not looks. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like everybody's somewhat looking, maybe side-eye looking.
Mm-hmm. Always working, networking never stops. Yeah, yeah.
Ooh, and it looks like
I'm
most
looking at the
people are.
chat.
Yeah, go ahead.
Vance was laid off 7 months ago and looking for a bridge retainer relationship, which is ending this month. Yeah, that's nice to have a retainer, Vance. Hopefully you've been able to squirrel things away financially so you can extend that bridge. And I see that Rebecca is looking to leave, but unsure where to start or how to pivot. Yeah, well, Rebecca, we're going to get into some of those things later in the slides and in the different sections coming ahead. Let's see, lots of chat. So much side-eye, yes, Terry. 2 part-time jobs, Anishwaya, sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name, Anishwarya has 2 jobs, looking for a full-time role with more stability. Ooh, yeah, okay. It's nice to see the range of things as also reflected in the poll. I want to address each one of these, but I think we have a lot of content to get through. So let's go back to slides and maybe we can circle back to some of these later.
That sounds good. And In terms of the poll, we've got a tie between deepened applications and searching full-time between roles. So thanks for everyone. Thanks everyone for sharing where you are. This really will help to frame this conversation. All right, Josh.
Okay, great. And we're back with slides. Okay, excellent. Thank you for that. The context in the current job market, as we've just been discussing, it's scary out there. It's really an unfortunate set of financial and political and social and technological circumstances that we are all in the middle of, that we are all navigating, whether we have stability of in-house W-2 current and consistent employment, or something in between. Like we heard from the chat that people are having, I think it was Victor who's having some bridge work of like some part-time stuff. It's a lot to manage, it's a lot to mitigate. Right now is a time of massive change. We are in between operating systems. We've got the confluence of late stage capitalism, the return of fascism and oligarchy, down with the patriarchy, et cetera, et cetera. Hiring managers are overwhelmed with thousands of applicants. Hiring managers are unfortunately looking for an exact match for skills and titles, but there's no fungibility or adjacency. There's no translatability of something you did for one company being understandable by another company. My friend Peter Merholtz is actually acting as an external reviewer right now to assist another hiring manager to sort through their 10,000 applications. And Peter got those 10,000 of the top 100 and still can't get what he feels are the most qualified candidates through to meet the person he's trying to support. I understand it's a lot. I'm here to say it's a lot. And then there's this eye-opening data of things you can find on your own from layoffs.fyi. This is data from a few days ago. Counter to this position, though, the job report from January says the unemployment rate declined to 4.3%, according to the US Bureau of Labor Statistics. So it's a lot. I'm acknowledging what we're all going through right now. But here's another new wrinkle. This article in the Wall Street Journal last week is about reverse recruiting, which is essentially a way for top talent to be represented by recruiters. So candidates, this is not typically how this happens, but candidates are paying recruiters to act as their agent to go represent them to the hiring manager to cut through the noise. So I didn't even notice this until recently when this article came out. I didn't know this was a thing. Yes, Lauren agreed. It's crazy to me too, and I'm a recruiter. However, Figma has a hopeful blog post from last week that talks about how hiring managers are looking for more senior talent and how recruiters are reinforcing the importance of well-rounded teams, well-rounded, diverse teams with complementary strengths, not just looking for one senior superhero unicorn. So whether you are a junior designer just starting out or a seasoned leader looking for their next challenge, I want to take you on a little journey out of the current moment. Can we do that? Yes? Okay. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. Quick shout out to another hopeful resource that I'm part of, a referral program called Liftoff. Their premise and their product is that the network will help you introduce you to your next role, and I believe in that firmly. That's been my AIGA experience for 30 years as well. Okay, so we're going to zoom out. Let's talk a little bit about the idea of jobs versus careers. A job is something you've got for a few years, hopefully more than 1 year. Maybe you're in it 3, 5, 10 years. That seems to be less and less the norm these days. But a career is long. Jobs can be short-term, but jobs are undergoing a shift. And we're at the very beginning of this shift. I love that, or actually like asterisk hate. When I say love, I actually mean don't love, that a lot of these images of careers are like up and to the right. It doesn't really work like that. I'm going to show you a different version. If on the left is birth and on the right is death, whether you're here on your timeline or here, your career does not work like that. This is false. This is absolutely wrong. It's not a linear place to go from A to B to C. It looks more like this. There are no clear start or end points, no clear direction. It looks like a fun ride because sometimes it is. This feels more like reality. And to me, I also love to invoke the second definition of the word career, which as a verb means to move swiftly and in an uncontrolled way, however, to move in a specified direction. That is to career. And I want to reassure you, hopefully, that when you are careering from career to career, it can look like this. And that is totally normal. This feels like my own career to date. And I don't know where I am on this timeline. It feels like I'm in some loop to loop as I'm starting my third business. So before we move on to the next stage, I want to reassure you that I'm out here working on fixing all the things and making slow but visible progress at some point in this loop. So how I got here, I've been connecting designers and creative people to opportunities for 30 years, and I'm going to endeavor to encapsulate 30 years in a few minutes. Here are some things I've designed. I did design my bed that I sleep in every night. I worked with a woodworker here in the Bay Area to make that. I've designed tattoos based on Pixies lyrics. So I've done a lot of things, and this is why I think about design from a holistic view. When I was 24, I started my first business, which is called Schwa Design, and I built project teams, I curated project teams based on relationships. A lot of the people that I met when I was running Schwa Design are people that I still work with today. It was an innovative business model at the time. And I think after decades of a network model, I've seen the benefits of a long-term network relationship orientation. My second venture coordinated with a move to the Bay Area when I was looking across the consistent needs that startups had for design, and I tried to put those in a repeatable, productized format. So Startnership is a portmanteau of startup, partnership, and that worked okay until it didn't, and I started to see the end of my financial stability. And so I went in-house to IBM. I joined the IBM garage when I moved to the Bay a couple years afterwards, and was the first design ops hire at Twitter. I could go into so much detail about any one of these, but I'd like to share one insight from my time at Twitter before I joined Twitter. My job description was a draft Google Doc, and I knew that it was draft because there were several different typefaces being used in the Google Doc, and an inconsistent hierarchy of the doc. But I think that was a pretty good insight to what it was like to work there. When I was hired as the first design ops person, my role was to support consistency, and the inconsistency was pretty visible. After being in-house at Twitter, which I can go into more detail about at another time, but after being the first design ops hire at Twitter, I began consulting in design ops operations for a few years and had an interview at Slack. The take-home exercise that was part of the Slack interview process was this page. And I thought, okay, I can do this, I can think through this. However, I saw some typos in the take-home exercise, and I was like, is this, are they trying to pull a fast one on me? Is this like an Easter egg for me to try and point out the inconsistency and the lack of clarity in their take-home exercise? This was a slide from my interview process, and I shared it back with them just so they could improve this take-home exercise for future ops candidates. I didn't get hired not because of my feedback on their take-home. I didn't get hired because they promoted someone else internally. Okay, so I've done a lot of teaching and advising. I've taught for nearly 30 years at these fine institutions. I did start almost 10 years ago as an adjunct at CCA, and mentioned earlier that I was the chair of the Master of Interaction Design program for about 4.5 years. I want to briefly do a little deep dive story on my friend Dave Bologna, because it is an example of networking success. I met Dave Bologna in the AIGA Boston Portfolio Review in 2002. He had just graduated from UConn Stores, shout out to UConn. And I loved this poster. This poster that Dave Bologna is holding stopped me in my tracks at the, I think it was it, I don't remember where the portfolio review was taking place, but I saw his poster and I was like, that's some great type. And he was like, thanks, let's talk about it. We ended up talking about semiotics, and I said, you should come down to my studio. Let's talk about working together. Dave was one of my first hires when I started Schwa Design in the late 90s. And the story started there. Schwa Design was Dave's first role after undergrad. 10, 15 years later, he moved to the Bay Area. We co-taught at General Assembly, which is the environment, the photo you're seeing now. And then he started working at Twitter and made space for me to interview, and actually suggested to me to interview for the ops role at Twitter. And the story continues. Tomorrow, Dave and I are chatting because I'm helping him source candidates for his design leadership role at Thumbtack. So I wanted to just do a brief deep dive on Dave Bologna because AIGA, and also because the relationship outlasted any number of institutions that we were both part of, and that's one of my points that I'll get into a little bit later. But this is a teaching context story. Okay, I've given a lot of talks and some workshops around the globe. I've been lucky enough to travel around the globe and share some thoughts and insights to London, to Bucharest, shout out Hopscotch and Matt Munoz. That was one of my first really delightful talks back in the day. And I want to do a little bit of a deep dive in community building, networking, and volunteering, because as you've seen so far, that's important to me and my career as well. When I was asked by Doug Powell, who was the then president, to be involved in AIGA's centennial, the planning began in 2012 for the 2014 centennial for AIGA, and I was one of 3 co-chairs thinking about how to represent the 100-year anniversary of the AIGA. And Blue Dot donated about 65, 70 chairs to represent each of the chapters. This is RIP, this is the AIGA headquarters in New York City at the opening night of the Centennial exhibit. You might notice a theme in community building here. This is a series that I created, another mashup of portmanteaus called Designtrepreneurs. It's a mouthful, but it's about designers and entrepreneurs, people who are both. And I mashed those two up because to me, they're parallel practices. I feel like designers and entrepreneurs are great at going where the world can't yet see. And because I'm a member of the LGBTQ community, I think there's another layer of that. I think LGBTQ plus people have always questioned the way things are. And I created this panel series because I saw the need for designers, entrepreneurs, and queer folks to share their stories. And we hosted 4 events of designerly innovators, 3 in San Francisco and 1 in New York. On the left, you might see Debbie Millman in the center, one of my heroes. She's turned away from the camera, but she is facilitating this Designtrepreneur event at SVA in New York City. So that brings us to today. People work is my coaching and recruiting business. I coach people who are new in their role or looking for support to set up healthy systems and practices in their role. And I also coach folks looking for their next meaningful employment. I'm interested in my people work practice in rebalancing who's responsible for a successful match. I want to put some of the responsibility on the company to articulate their position on design, because right now all the responsibility is on the candidate and none on the company. In the past 18 months, I've placed 3, actually over the fall, I've had people work for the past 18 months as my focus, but over the fall, I placed 2 candidates, one a founding designer and one a staff level engineer, both biracial women. And I also coach in the people work practice with Billy from Mandel Creative, who you saw in the first slide, and with Kat Ko, 2 badass women I'm honored to partner with. And the 3 of us love to help clients discover their purpose. One of the clients that Billy and I supported in her negotiation received a 230% salary increase, so we have the receipts. Okay, now I'm gonna take a little sip of water and share some lessons and insights over the past 30 years that you just saw in a few minutes to my next business, and then we'll move on to things that you can start to do today. On recruiting today, in the past 30 years of connecting designers with opportunities, in the past 18 months of really focusing on the wide world of competitive recruiting, and it feels like that as a recruiter, I've seen that recruiting can be pretty one-sided. And I think not all of the responsibility for a successful match between candidate and company should reside on the candidate. You're not going to plant a pomegranate tree in a rainforest. The pomegranate tree needs the proper soil. If you're a pomegranate or a fig, the right match of thing to environment needs to be considered equally. And right now, 100% of that is on the candidate, and I'd like to put more on the company. And that means, tell me about what's in your roadmap. Do you need someone to start working for you full-time next week? Do you have a hot thing to get out the door? Or is there some way of thinking about when you might need to hire someone? And that's where things like temp to perm or freelance to fractional to full-time might be applied to that kind of match. There's no transparency and feedback for how you're doing in the process, where you are in the process, or what the steps of the process are. And I should say that a lot of companies are pretty clear on that. I've helped support candidates in a lot of their own searches where I can see what their expectations are in the interview or what steps there are in the interview loop, but there isn't a lot of transparency. There's more opacity than transparency in this process, and I'd love to get to a point where you, the candidate, get feedback on how to progress and how to bring what feedback you got from one interview process into the next one. I know that there are lots of legal ramifications. I'm putting it in air quotes because I think that there's probably a way through all that, especially if the recruiting company is the holder of that information and can anonymize who's saying what. I think there's a way through, and I'd like to figure that out. There's no consistency to job searches from one company to the next, from startup to stand-up to enterprise. And what if there was? What if there was a template to conduct fair and equitable hiring based on a transparent rubric that was part of everyone else's expectations besides the design team? And what I mean by that is, if you work in a team, if you work with a company that has an established design team, you will have cross-functional partners, engineering, marketing, brand. Even if it is an integrated design practice, you will have other collaborators. And I'd love for there to be an understanding of what the design and designers are going to do before we even write a job description based on what everyone else in your collaborative partnerships might want you to do. There is zero consistency to job leveling and titles, what an L2, L5, L6, that's level 5 or 6 designer means from one company to the next. No consistency. I had a founder who was about to hire his first designer ask me to find them an L5 designer, and I said, according to whom? You don't have any designers. Why do you want to start with an L5? That was a funny signal to me. There's no consistency to job leveling or titles. What a staff level engineer or a senior engineer do from company A to B to C will differ. And the biggest insight to me is that the people who are in charge of making the decision on your fitness for purpose, your candidacy, may not be super familiar with what they're looking at. I am absolutely going to offer a class for hiring managers on how to read a portfolio, because I've taught my students and I've taught my coaching clients how to make one. I'd love to rebalance it on their side and say, this is how to interpret this, this is how to read this, this is how to understand what this experience means in your context. And that would help familiarize the decision makers with your candidacy. There's so much work to do. Okay, other insights that I can share that have carried me through things that persist. People matter most. Design is about people. Most problems for alignment are not about the tech or the visual layer or what AI LLM you're going to use. It's the deepest level of team configuration is the people layer. Relationships persist. That story that I told about Dave Bologna, healthy, mutually supportive relationships can outlast projects and certainly outlast companies or institutions. Despite prevailing arguments to the contrary, we have more in common with each other than not. A diverse team has increased financial returns, and there's McKinsey data on this. Also, having a growth mindset means that failure is a moment in time. We love failure. We love to study failure. There are hella books on failure, but failure is data. Failure is a moment in time. And getting better at your interview process, getting better with transparent feedback about what you could do differently the next time is a growth mindset, adds up to a growth mindset. Opportunity is everywhere. There's so many systems that are broken. We don't need to detail all of them because they would overwhelm. But to me, design is never done. There'll always be a new problem to solve. And that means designers will always have work to do. We're always going to have things that we can do to persist and make things better. All right, our last section. Things you can start to do today. Things you can do right now today. I want to make this actionable for everyone. Reflect. Start with a little reflection time. If this last 40 minutes together has done anything for you, I hope that it allows you to think differently about what you have achieved, where you have come from, times you have felt valued, how you knew you felt valued, where did it show up? Was it emotional? Was it physical? Was it physiological? How did you feel it? Where did you feel it? What did it look like? Was it the nature of the work that made you feel this value, that you were giving back, that you were receiving? Was it the people you were working with, or both? What combination of things helped you feel valued? That's the first thing you can start to do today. Clarify what types of work bring you energy. Are you a morning person? Or are you an evening person? Do you love the blank page, or do you need things a little bit more defined in a systematized way before you can start making things? Also, what zaps your energy? What work do you like? I'm going to let someone else do that. What conditions make you feel like you're living your purpose? Those are things to clarify under what conditions you do your best work, and also what the kind of work is. Then assess work traits. Think about all the things that you could click a box to search for. Full-time or self-employed, distributed, hybrid, or on-site. Do you feel more managerial, or do you want to stay an individual contributor or IC? Do you want to do startup? Do you want to do stand-up? Do you want to do enterprise? Make a list of all the things that you feel are the criteria and the conditions for your search. And I would reassess these things every 3 to 6 months or so, or as needed. And lastly, network. Reach out. Offer help to communities you're a part of, whether in my case it was the queer entrepreneur designer community that inspired me to make the Designtrepreneurs series. That was me reaching out to others and asking for help and making space for them to tell their stories. There are probably some communities who, if you're a giver and you feel like you can carve out some time to help others, maybe you could give to someone else who needs more help than you, and that might make you feel better, and maybe at a certain point that karma credit will come back to you. You can always network. You can always find someone who needs a little bit more help than you, and also this is a great opportunity to conduct informational interviews. What is it like to work there? What challenges are you seeing? These are low barrier of entry ways that you can find out what it's like to be part of a company before you even start an interview process. Call someone you admire, call someone who's doing work out there that you find inspiring, and have a coffee with them, a virtual or physical coffee or tea or cocktail if you go that way, and ask them what their challenges are, what they're thinking through, what frustrates them, what's on their roadmap. These are really good activities to do starting today. And I hope all these things help you get clear on what you're looking for and what you're solving for. And if these don't, then I've got even more to share. I have this really lovely structure that Billy and I developed together. It's called a foundations list. Write down some bulleted lists or phrases. Assess these foundational questions for yourself every 6 months or so. My friend Josh Levine, who also used to teach at CCA, has this really, really timely podcast called The Job Market Shit Show. This is his URL. It's a really important thing to tune into and contribute to. I recently designed a book. I still remembered all my InDesign shortcuts. This book by my friend Margot Stern, a friend from Twitter, embodies the employer-employee dynamic and physically rebalances the scale. It's a two-sided book. The printer called us up and we were like, you know that half of your content's upside down. And we're like, yep, it's intentional. So literally a two-sided book. The centerfold has a lot of resources in it. The centerfold has acknowledgements and some other fun stuff in the center of the book. And it encourages empathy. With the construction of the book, encourages empathy for the two-way conversation that is the interview process. I have a couple more books to share. One is Relationality, about making sure that we move from a transactional world to a more relational world. How moving from transactional to transformational relationships can reshape our world. Your friend and mine, Kat Bellows, we should get together about creating as a handbook for anyone who's interested in healthy and better friendships and relationships. And lastly, Karen Wickery's book, Taking the Work Out of Networking. If you hate networking, this book is for you. If you're someone who identifies as an introvert, it's literally made for you. So we can go back to slides. We've got a couple more. Thank you, Heather. One handy thing that I love is called a user manual. This is another way to write down the things that you feel you can bring to a workplace. Once you're in your new role, this is going to become increasingly important. So write down the conditions that you like to work in, whether you're a morning person or an evening person, the best ways to communicate with you. If you had this kind of guidebook to communicate with for all your coworkers, just imagine what it will be like to know how to reach them, what inspires them, what they dislike. This kind of socialization of work is really important to a healthy team and great relationships at work. So before we close, I want to suggest to everyone, I want you to invite, to feel invited, I mean, to think about the difference between you and your work. Your work is not your worth. You are a person with value, but your worth is not determined from your employer or anyone that you're working with. I'd like to invite you to separate those two things. A workplace is a place to generate value, but you are not your work. Maybe your work, maybe your meaning and your worth comes from outside of work for now. So that's what I've got. There's going to be a link in chat from Heather that will allow you to follow up with me if you're interested in interview or coaching prep, if you want help writing your case studies, if you want help getting a portfolio, there's the link. Thank you, Heather. If you want help getting your portfolio together, telling your story, presenting your work, selling yourself, designing effective presentation slides, or mapping out a consistent interview process, I've got resources and time for all those things. This is literally what I'm doing with my life these days. So that's what I've got this morning. Thank you for being here. I can't wait to have a couple minutes of conversation with you all, and I'm going to look in the chat because I've seen a lot of things flying by. So now we get to talk about it.
Yeah, we have quite a few questions. So we're going to leave this link up now. Definitely. Let's keep the CTA up. Yeah. So find out what is next in your career, guys. Click on that and we'll go through some questions. We have quite a lot. So Alberto is saying that, Josh, have you seen or are you aware of some of the most recent skill sets that are being searched for in designers looking to revamp career? Since you are more connected, you might have more insider information.
Great question, Alberto. It really, I'm going to give a totally designerly answer and say it really depends on what kind of role you're looking for. What I am seeing as available roles are, depending on the scale of the company and the role itself, more generalist roles where you are the sole designer, you are a person who's starting a practice. Excuse me, and you might be doing a little bit of research and strategy, a little bit of like UX, UI brand, a little bit of coding, a little bit of content writing, and a little bit of something else. Like that is what it might take to be the hire that's going to help you get an offer, because you can be a lot of things and do a lot of things until such point that the company is ready to hire a second person on or a third person on the team. So definitely ask what the roadmap is for the design practice, not just what skills are required for your being in the role.
Got it. Thank you so much. Thanks, Alberto, for asking. He has a follow-up question. With all of this AI scenario unfolding, how do you see the scenarios changing for creatives to transform jobs into careers?
Excellent question. I haven't really spent so much time thinking about AI and jobs versus careers, but my first instinct is that based on where we are in the last couple of years, that we are in like the center of the AI hype cycle. And I would love for the AI hype cycle to fizzle out such that any job you're in becomes framed more like a career, framed as something that is going to outlast the AI hype cycle. So maybe you're in that job for 3+ years, 4 years, 5 years. I'm sure there's some data that we could get about how long people are in roles, and maybe the numbers go this way. And for like longevity in a role has started to look like this in the past couple decades. I mean, my dad was a stockbroker his whole life and stayed at the same company for 30 years. I think there are fewer and fewer people who are under 60 who have been in a role for 10+, 20+ years. So I'd love to find out. I'd love to partner with someone on finding out that data. Probably not the Bureau of Labor Statistics, but someone else, a private company.
Right. All right. Thank you, Alberto, for asking. Julian's asking, how can we collaborate and feel more empowered? When you were talking about community, this question came up.
I'm going to say find someone in your community who needs the help of a designer. It could be your local community. Maybe it isn't even the job of a designer. Maybe it's someone who needs help, like, I don't know, planting a garden or planting a tree or jumping their car, or, depending on where you live, shoveling their sidewalk. I think giving back is a really, really great way of feeling empowered. And for my own career, 30 years of volunteering for AIGA has introduced me to a lot of my heroes. And I've gotten, like, let's just say, 10x of the time that I've put into AIGA and volunteering for AIGA has given me time with my heroes, time with people who I'm inspired by. So if that's a small window of my own experience that I could offer to you to give back to some other community, it can be AIGA for sure, but it could also be any other kind of community that is open to volunteering, that allows you to eventually feel like you're being valued from the time that you're putting into it. That's a long answer, but giving back is basically the TLDR.
I think that's a great answer. Thank you for asking that. So we are running out of time, so we have just a couple more questions that we can answer at this time.
Right.
Rachel is asking, for recent grads, do you recommend a summary at the top of the resume? I tend to recommend a qualification highlights with brief success stories.
Great question. I think for the resume, you could have something that looks a lot like or is exactly like your LinkedIn About Me. When I'm coaching people to prepare for interviews and they have slides like you've seen my slides today, one thing that you can do is at the beginning, give a brief overview of your inspiration, where you come from, your qualifications. That's a good time to get a little bit more narrative driven. Maybe some bulleted lists about impact you've made in other roles. But don't forget, at the end of your slides, recap why you want the role. That's probably going to serve you a lot better than putting it on the resume. I think the purpose of that content is to help you get the role, get the offer, get to the place where you feel like you're going to accept the offer. But I think putting that content in another format will serve you better. But yeah, let me know how it works for you.
Great. Thank you, Rachel, for asking that. Last one. There's still more questions, but we're running out of time. Shannon is asking, I would be curious about your thoughts on submitting a designy resume versus an ATS optimized resume. I hear this question all the time.
Ooh, same. I'm starting to see, and I just actually heard this week that people are putting, candidates are putting white on white text to get read by the ATS, applicant tracking system, so that you get your resume at the top of the proverbial pile. I see and celebrate the innovation, But I didn't answer your question. I think the designy resume has a purpose, but I think the purpose of a resume is to get you the interview. So you don't have to spend a ton of time making your resume look like the rest of your materials, choosing some of the same typefaces, choosing some of the same colors, and having it be easy to scan by a person and also an ATS. That's important for your own branding, your own personal consistency, and recognizing you from others. But it's more important to me to have a portfolio presentation deck that is clear and easy to understand from any point in the room or any point on the screen. That's where you should put your design effort.
I love that. That is great. Thank you, Josh. This monkey has definitely gone to heaven for sure. Great advice and points of view.
Yes.
Had to
Yes,
get that in
Pixie's
there.
callback. Pixie's callback. I love
I
it.
had to get that. All right. So we're going to give you a tiny break. We're going to jump into a pop quiz. Thank you, Josh. All right, AIJ members, it's time to see what actually sticks in your brain besides a mild career self-reflection. All right, it's time for a pop quiz. This quiz question will not be graded, but if you answer correctly, you could win a 60-minute coaching session with Josh Silverman, which is basically a personalized career clarity from an expert who's seen everything. This prize is valued at $500 and can be awarded to new clients only. So yes, please try this. All right. So here's how it works. I'm going to show you a question. Just drop your answer into the chat. No overthinking, just your first instinct. All right. Are you ready? Okay. The question is, in Josh's framework, what helps you determine whether work is worth it? Is it A, market demand for your skills? B, your own values, priorities, and conditions? C, the company's reputation? Or D, the compensation package? All right, get your questions in the chat. No consulting LinkedIn or Google, no forming a committee. All right, I see some guesses coming in. Thank you so much. And we'll bring Josh back. All right. Hey, Josh.
Hey,
All
I really
right.
wish I could get to everyone's questions in the chat, but I think if you click on the survey that Heather put on the lower third, it will have my email in it, and that's a really good way to reach out to me.
Yeah.
All
Awesome.
right.
There it goes.
Who
There it is.
won? Thank you,
We
Erin.
will see. We will see in just a moment.
Okay.
We have 2 more minutes, but Josh, before we reveal this answer, I just wanted to say that this was incredibly grounding and practical. And thank you so much for sharing your perspective and your experience with us today. We really appreciate the clarity that you brought to this crazy process that can feel confusing, frustrating, and for me, emotionally chaotic. So I want to say thank you so much for being here, Josh. Really appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you. It is my pleasure and my purpose to help others discover their purpose. So I'm glad to be here and to spread this, I'm going to say gospel. There's a lot of work to do out there. So I feel like doing it together is the best way through. So thank you for the opportunity to be in community with you and with everyone else that's here. And thanks for the support, Rachel and Victor. We did it.
Yay, we did it. Thank you so much, Josh. We'll see you later. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Bye. Okay, guys, we appreciate you showing up for yourselves in this community. And thank you again to founder and CEO of People Work Partners, Josh Silverman, for today's class to help us find work that's worth it and to get to work on a job search built on clarity and standards. But before we go, let's talk about that pop quiz. The question was, in Josh's framework, what helps you determine whether work is worth it? The answer was B, your own values, priorities, and conditions. And our winner of the 60-minute coaching session with Josh, valued at $500, is Aishwarya. Aishwarya, congratulations. Contact Heather via Heather@Together by Design to coordinate timing. All right, the next class resumes on March 10 with instructor and business consultant Emily Cohen, teaching us how to build relationships that bring better work. Thank you guys for joining us together for class. And I am Rachel Elnar. I will see you at the next session of the Practical Institute for Creative Survival. Take care, everyone. Bye, guys.